Recent polls have shown that Democrats are facing an uphill battle ahead of the midterms, but some new numbers are offering maybe something of a different picture. And that is what Harry Enten is back and digging into. Potentially signs of a turnaround, perhaps, Harry. What are you seeing on the generic ballot?
Okay, so, we're talking about warning signs for the Republican Party, and I will just say, uh-oh, for them. That is the phrase of the day, uh-oh. Democrats lead the generic congressional ballot, and you can see their lead is expanding. It's becoming bigger. Look at this in spring. CNBC, it was 2. Now it's 5. How about Ipsos? It was 1 for the Democrats. Now it's 4. How about the Wall Street Journal? It was 1, and now it is 3. So now the average lead here is 4, which is up from just about a point. That's about a 3-point move on average in the Democrats' direction. And of course, Kate Paul, when this is coming amidst the fights over redistricting, I think there are going to be a lot of people wondering, wait a minute, are Republicans wanting to change the lines because they are losing, which they absolutely are on the generic congressional ballot. At this point, Democrats are winning, Republicans are losing, and maybe they're trying to change the lines in order to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room, given what we're seeing, a clear Democratic momentum on the generic congressional ballot.
How does it break down when you look at party ID?
Okay, so this is one metric, right? The generic congressional ballot. How about party identification, right? Because the idea is if you're a Democrat, you're very likely to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you're very likely to vote Republican. Take a look here, the party ID margin, Democrats versus Republicans. Look in Q1 of this year. Quinnipiac, Republicans had a lead of a point. Gallup, it was tight. Look at where we are now in the latest measures. Again, Democratic momentum. This is a 5-point move to the Democrats, according to Quinnipiac. Now they're up by 4 on party ID. How about Gallup? What we see is Democrats ahead by 3 points. So again, what you're seeing is clear movement towards the Democratic Party on a very key metric, because if you're identifying as Democratic, you're far more likely to vote for the Democrat. If you're identifying as Republican, you're far more likely to vote Republican. And I will note, Kate, that this is a change from last year, especially among Gallup, when Republicans held a rare lead going into the 2024 election. And that, of course, foreshadowed Donald Trump winning, foreshadowed Republicans taking the House, taking the Senate. And now, of course, Democrats are ahead here. This is a big uh-oh for Republicans as we are at the midpoint of 2025.
But you see some signs as well, even beyond polling that you've been looking at, you think could indicate.
Yeah, okay, so this is the polling, right? You're looking at party ID, you're looking at the generic congressional ballot. How about the special elections? Look at this. In the median 2025 special election so far, Democrats in these different districts, get this, they're doing about 13 points better, the median Democrat, than Kamala Harris did in those same districts last year. That is a huge movement. And last year what we saw was, in fact, when you compare the 2024 special election results back to the Joe Biden baseline of 2020, Republicans were actually doing better than they did in 2020 in those. So again, this is clear movement towards the Democrats, and we're seeing it on 3 different metrics, 2 polling and 1 in actual election results.
Why these 2 races in particular are being watched so closely for signals in next year's midterms? Harry Enten is running the numbers on that for you this morning. How are things, set the table, how are things looking in Virginia and New Jersey 2 months out?
Yeah, I would say that these 2 races are the biggest flashing red siren signs for Republicans. Why is that? Let's take a look right now at the prediction market odds in both New Jersey and in Virginia. And in both cases, the Democrats are favored. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, 89% chance of winning according to the prediction markets. How about Abigail Spanberger in the great Commonwealth of Virginia? We're talking a 94% chance of winning. I was looking at the polling data as well. The Democrats in both these races hold high single-digit leads. Obviously, Glenn Youngkin, currently the Republican governor of Virginia, was able to win there. And in New Jersey, the Democrats barely squeaked by back in 2021. Right now, the polling leads in both those states are larger for the Democrats. They're in better position than they were back in 2021. That's why in both cases, the Democrats are heavily favored. And as I said earlier on, to me, this is a flashing red siren warning sign for Republicans.
Counterpoint, there has always been a lot of debate around how much you can take from any one race and extrapolate and apply it to any future race. Why should Democrats or voters nationally care about what's happening in New Jersey and Virginia?
Right. Okay. So you see the Democrats leading in both of these races, right? Predicted to win in both of them. Why? Why should people nationally care? Why am I saying it's a flashing red siren for Republicans? If the same party has won in the New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial races dating back since 1989, guess who won the U.S. House the following years? 6 out of 7 times, the same party wins in the nationally, and they win the U.S. House of Representatives if, in fact, they win in both Virginia and New Jersey. So what happens...
That's a cool stat. That's a really interesting
This
look,
is
Harry.
exactly right, because Because the bottom line is this: if you're not a resident of Virginia and New Jersey, you go, why should you care? It's because nationally these races do in fact have predictive power if in fact the same party wins in both of those states. And currently Democrats are favored to win in both, and history suggests therefore 6 out of 7 times they are predicted to in fact win the U.S. House of Representatives the following year.
I don't know about you guys, but if you're like me, you might not really trust the polling as much. But I think if you look at what's going on with the special elections, as well as with the polling, it definitely is very interesting to watch. And I think that it could mean big things in 2026. I think the special elections are huge, and especially just showing like what they showed, how many points were up in these special elections is really insane. And then with the Virginia governor's race and how she's up, I think 93% in the polling. But we'll have to see. Let me know down in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really want to hear your opinion, and I'll see you in the next one.